Hi, my name's Chris, and you found me on the Midlife Pilot channel on YouTube, and today we're starting the first in a three-part series on preparing for a private pilot check ride. I'm deep in the middle of my preparations, both flying and in the homework sections for my private pilot check ride coming up here in just a matter of weeks. And in today's video, in part one, I want to go over a few things, kind of the basics of setting up how I'm preparing for my check ride. This is kind of a combination of a lot of advice and a lot of things that I found online from others who've been down this road. And so there's more than one way, certainly, to prepare for a check ride. This is kind of the path that I've chosen. So I guess the first question to answer, and we'll be brief because if you're watching this, you likely already know, what is a check ride? Well, it's the last step in being granted your private pilot certificate or other ratings and certificates down the road. But in my case, the primary or private pilot certificate is what I'm taking my check ride for. And basically, it's a two-part exam with a designated pilot examiner or DPE. The first portion is an oral exam, kind of a conversational setting where the objective is to really dig into your knowledge and understanding of aviation and safety related to that. And then the second part is a practical test or a flight test. You can find all the information about how the test is administered and the contents of the test in what's called the ACS, or the Airman Certification Standards. These are published by the FAA. Here's my copy of the Private Pilot ACS booklet. And what's great about this is it is basically your guide, step by step, to what you can expect here in the check ride. For instance, in each one of these sections, the pre-flight preparation, for instance, part one, task A, the DPE will select a couple of options from the knowledge section, the risk management section, and then all of the items in the skills section. So what that means for you is, in most cases, the DPE will provide a scenario-based test where he won't be so much asking you for rote memorization of things, but we'll put things in a conversational scenario-based way and ask you to answer things. There's lots of examples if you search YouTube of mock check rides that have been completed online to kind of give you an example of what your oral portion of the check ride might be like, and I would encourage you to check that out. Certainly if you're going for your check ride in any certificate or category, one of the most important documents that you can have is your ACS book for your rating that you're going for. It is basically your guide to taking that flight exam. So once you've got that book under control, what else? How else would you be preparing for your big day, for your check ride? What other things are you required to bring? So let's talk about this in a few parts. First of all, for you as the pilot, some things that are absolutely imperative for you to have with you on the day of your check ride would be FAA Form 8710-1, which is your application for a certificate. Most folks will have filled this out electronically along with help from your instructor on IACRA, which is the FAA's online portal for doing so, but it's always, always, always a good idea to have a copy of that form with you in case something's going on with the internet that day and the DP is unable to take care of that electronically. The next piece of material you'll have to have with you is your knowledge test exam results, your test report, and not a copy of it, the one with the actual embossed seal that was given to you on the day of your knowledge exam. Make sure you have that piece of information with you. That will be required for you to move forward with the flight exam that day. Some other items that are going to be important for you to have with you on check ride day will be your pilot logbook. Not only your logbook, but appropriately endorsed and tabbed with a lot of your flight results or your flight's totals correct, mathematically correct and totaled. Along with your logbook, you'll need to have your current valid medical certificate or BasicMed information if you are taking part in the FAA's BasicMed program. your student pilot certificate, along with a government-issued photo ID, a passport, driver's license, will work to satisfy those requirements. Okay, as it relates to your aircraft, what kind of documentation do you need to have with you for your aircraft that you'll be taking the practical exam check ride in? Well, it's important that you have all your logbooks, your engine logbook, airplane logbook, propeller logbook. Also in that logbook, make sure you've got the important things tabbed and easy to find in those maintenance logs, including the last, your current 100-hour or annual inspection, depending on what's required of your aircraft. You're going to want to make sure that you can show the examiner all of the airworthiness directives have been complied with for your airplane. So it's a good idea to have those tabbed and marked with Post-it notes or things in advance so they're easy to find on your check ride day. And we'll talk more about airworthiness directives here in just a moment. I like to have a sheet much like this one. I just made a real simple maintenance status sheet that shows the various required inspections and checks of the airplane, when they're next due, and their duration. It's easy to have a quick look at that with the examiner, so he'll be able to see at a glance that things are current with the airplane. You'll also need the aircraft weight and balance, a current weight and balance sheet for the airplane. This one for our airplane was just completed in January when we replaced the generator with a new 50-amp alternator. So I have a current weight and balance sheet here, easily findable. And of course, you'll have to have the normal requirements for the AERO acronym. And in this case, some of these are in the airplane, so I'm not able to have them with me here today for recording this video. But those include, I've got them here in ForeFlight, the airworthiness certificate, which is needs to be on display inside the airplane. Normally, it's in a pocket somewhere down by a floorboard, so that those entering the aircraft can see your airworthiness certificate. You need a valid aircraft registration. These expire every 3 years, so check the dates at the bottom of the registration. Make sure you have your current registration certificate for the aircraft that you'll be taking your check ride in. You of course need your operating limitations, which can be found in your POH for your aircraft. So make sure your POH is with you for sure. And as we mentioned, that weight and balance sheet is important as well. Now, we mentioned airworthiness directives a few minutes ago, and it's important to be able to show the examiner definitively that all ADs have been complied with. And there are multiple types. There are some that are one-time only ADs that only require an action once to be complied with. And then there are some other ADs that have been issued that are of a recurring nature that require multiple steps or multiple things to occur maintenance-wise for the AD to remain current. At FAA.gov, you can find a list of ADs that are applicable to your manufacturer and airplane type, and then within each individual AD will be listed the airframe type as well as affected serial numbers of the aircraft in most cases. What I've basically done is printed the sheet from FAA.gov for this Cessna 172G, and I have marked the ADs that apply to my aircraft and whether they are active and are one-time or are recurring ADs. And behind this, I've actually included, for each AD, I've included the actual airworthiness directive text from FAA.gov in order that I can show each specific AD to the examiner, and then we'll have tabbed in our airframe logbook the appropriate AD's completion so that he'll know that all of those have been complied with. So that's very important. A few other important components that you're going to want to make sure you have with you for your check ride will be things like your FAR aim. And in this case, this is my tabbed out 2019 FAR aim. I've got to move everything over to my new 2020 version in order that I can have a current version. Make sure your materials are current. Also, if you have other study books that you've used to study, you can bring those along for reference as well. You want to make sure you have an E6B. It can either be an old school rotary E6B like this one or an electronic E6B. We'll have more with this coming up in the next video when we'll do a complete check ride flight plan and weight and balance from start to finish. Also, a plotter will be helpful for your flight planning. a current sectional, even if you're using electronic flight bag. I'm going to do all my flight planning manually and also on ForeFlight, but it's good to have a current, unexpired sectional chart for the area in which you'll be flying. Also, you'll want to have a nav log, which you will have completed for the flight that your examiner has asked you to create. We'll be doing this in part 2 of this series. We'll be completing a complete nav log. Also, a completed weight and balance. The examiner will give you his weight or her weight, and you'll be able to complete a weight and balance sheet. Again, this is one of those things you have to know how to do manually. It's a great thing, a great skill to know. We'll be going over this one as well in part 2. And then you'll have your weight and balance sheet as well calculated for that. You'll need a pair of Foggles or view limiting goggles. This will be for the IFR portion, not the IFR portion, the instrument portion to prove that you can fly under instruments. And your flight headset, comfortable headset, one you've been using. This is my David Clark 1X headset, and if you have a headset like a Bose A20 or any of the Lightspeed headsets or this David Clark set that takes batteries for noise cancellation and Bluetooth, make sure you have fresh batteries so that you're not messing with dead batteries on your headset on the day of your check ride. And plenty of writing utensils. You'll need pencils. I use highlighters for a lot of things, Sharpies, pens, fine pens. It's all good to have with you on the day of your check ride. And of course, you'll need the money that you've agreed upon to pay your DPE. You have agreed upon that. He'll have told you his rate or her rate ahead of time, and cash is the appropriate payment method for your check ride. So that kind of covers some of what you want to bring with you. That's kind of an overview of check ride day. In part 2, coming up, we're going to do a complete flight plan, start to finish, nav log completion. We'll plot it on the sectional chart. We'll complete a weight and balance for the airplane, and we'll go through step by step how to prepare your flight plan for your private check ride, and that's coming up in part 2. As a reminder, make sure you visit Patreon page at patreon.com/midlifepilot to score early access to all the videos we release here on this channel, as well as some great exclusive video content, as well as other perks. Check it all out at patreon.com/midlifepilot. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in part 2.